Okay, for this lesson we're doing 6.4, choosing the best method, and also real life problems. So choose your method. Our three different methods that we've learned so far: graphing, so to see where they touch at; substitution, putting one thing into another where either x or y is by itself already; or elimination, putting them on top of each other, eliminating either x or y. Okay, so this method, there's multiple ways you can do this. No way is the wrong way, but there are easier ways to do it. So this one, y is by itself. So I'm going to take this and put it in for y, because y means the same thing as 4x. So we're going to put 4x equals 3x minus 1. Well, we want to get our x's on the same side and our numbers on the other. So let's subtract 3x. So then x equals -1. Once I find my x, I have to find my y. You better always have a point. So let's plug it back into that original equation there. So y should equal -4. So my point then is -1, -4. Okay, this one, my m and n are not by themselves, so I would do elimination. So we either want to eliminate our m's or we want to eliminate our n's. So if I cover up all of this first, to be able to eliminate, one has to be positive, one has to be negative, and they both have to have the same number in front. And they have to be lined up on the same side of the equal sign. So it looks like they're both the same number, they're on top of each other, they're both on the same side of the equal sign. So let's just multiply one of them by -1 so that we can make the one set negative. So then this distributes to everything. So when we add, because we always add down, our m's should cancel. -4n plus 2n is -2n. 1 plus 1 is 2. Got to get n by itself, so n should equal -1. But I need to figure out what m is still, so I got to plug it back in. Let's plug it into the top one. Again, it doesn't matter which one you plug it into. You should get the same answer. -4 times -1 is 4. Subtract 4 from both sides. So I get 3m equals -3. Divide both by 3. M should also equal -1. And when you're trying to write it as an ordered pair, you're going to do it in alphabetical order. So it's going to be m comes before n, so it'd be, well, there's the same number, but it would have been -1, -1, because m and then n. Okay, looks like t is by itself, so we're going to use substitution. So we're going to put this in for t, because t means the exact same thing as -2s minus 1. So and always put it in parentheses, don't forget, because that 3 is going to have to distribute here. So I'm going to get -3 times -2s is positive 6s. -3 times -1 is a positive 3. Since these are on the same side of the equal sign, we do as what it says, so 4s plus 6s is 10s. Subtract 3 from both sides. Divide by 10. So then my s is going to be 1/2. Okay, now we got to plug it back in to figure out what our t is going to be. So we're going to plug it back into the original equation. So t equals -2 times whatever we found our s to be. -2 times 1/2 is -1. -1 minus 1 is -2. So my answer then is, you're going to go QRST, so it'd be 1/2 -2. Okay, we've got to check to make sure if x or y is by itself on one side of the equal sign. Until you do substitution, it isn't. Next step, for elimination, put them on top of each other. They're already on top of each other. Are x and y on the same side of the equal sign? Yes, it has to be in standard form to be able to do this. Okay, do we want to eliminate our x's or our y's? So I am going to take a look at my x's, because one's already positive, one's already negative. So to get them to be the same number, it looks like they share a GCF of 21. So I'd have to multiply the top by, to get them both to be 21, I'd have to multiply the top by 7. And the bottom by 3. So 7 got to distribute all the way through. So 7 times 3x, 21x. 7 times 6y, 42y. And 7 times 42, 294. Now we got to do our 3. 3 times negative 7x, negative 21x. 3 times 8y is 24y. 3 times negative 109 is negative 327. So now when we add down, our x's will cancel here. 42y plus 24y should give me 66y. 294 plus negative 327 gives me negative 33. Okay, this one is not negative 22 or negative 2 or what you think that is, because we want to get y by itself. So we're dividing both by 66. So y is then going to be negative 1/2. Because we got to get y by itself. So now we got to plug it back in and see what our x is going to be. So 6 times negative 1/2 is negative 3. Add 3 to both sides. I'm going to go up here. So then 3x is equal to 45. Divide by 3. X should be 15. Okay, looks like we don't have an x or y by itself. They're both on the same side of the equal sign. So now we want to look to see if we want to cancel our x's or our y's. So if we look at our x's, it looks like we can get that top one to be a positive 6 so that they can cancel, because one has to be positive, one has to be negative. So let's go ahead and just multiply this top by 3. So then I would get 6x plus 12y is equal to negative 36. So let's add down. Our x's should cancel. 5y plus 12y is 17y. 2 plus negative 36 is negative 34. Divide both sides by 17. Y should equal negative 2. Plug it back into one of the equations. I'm going to pick the top one. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Add 8 to both sides. 2x is equal to negative 4. Divide both sides by 2. X should be negative 2. Again, if you wanted to check your answer, you could plug it back in for x and y. Check to make sure that they both equal what it should equal. Okay, so m or n by itself doesn't look like it. They're on top of each other already. So let's go ahead and just look at our m's first. It looks like all we have to do is multiply by a negative 1. Let's just do it to the top one. So it'd be negative 3m. Remember, it distributes to everything, so 4n and negative 1. I'm going to rewrite this other one. Okay, add down. Our m should cancel. 4n plus negative 2n is 2n. Negative 1 plus negative 1 is negative 2. Divide both by 2. N is equal to negative 1. Plug it back in. So this should be negative 4 times negative 1 is 4. Subtract, 4 from both sides. 3m equals negative 3. So then m should equal negative 1 when you divide both sides. Which method would you choose? Okay, we're going to try this one, so I flipped ahead. So if y equals 4x minus 2 and y equals 4x plus 22, let's go ahead and take one of these y's and plug it in for the other. So 4x plus 22 is equal to 4x minus 2. So if I subtract 4x from both sides, that should cancel. 4x minus 4x should be 0. So does 22 equal negative 2? No, it doesn't. So my answer is going to be no solution. So if I wanted it to be, if my x's cancel and both sides don't equal each other, it's no solution. If they equal each other, so if I would have got 22 equals 22 or -2 equals -2, it would have been infinite. There's an infinite number of answers. My two lines sit on top of each other. Okay, so it looks like we got y by itself again, so let's go ahead and do substitution and plop it in right there. Okay, distribute, so we get 8x minus 5 plus 8x equals 15. I'm going to go ahead and add 5. 8x plus 8x equals 20. 8x plus 8x is 16x. Divide by 16. So that one's an ugly fraction. I'm not going to make you plug it in. You should not get problems that are going to be this difficult, but normally you'd plug it back in and solve to see what y is. Okay, let's go ahead and plug this in for y. So let's subtract 2x from both sides. So I get 4x plus 1 is equal to 5. Subtract 1. 4x is equal to 4. Divide by 4, x should be 1. Okay, put it back in. So y is equal to 6 plus 1, so y is equal to 7. Again, check your answer. Okay, real life examples. The perimeter of a rectangle, so we have a rectangle, is 66. So my perimeter is 66 centimeters. Its width is half its length. What are the length and width of the rectangle? Well, if we're trying to find perimeter, perimeter is adding up all the sides. So I'm going to get L plus W plus W. And it says the perimeter should be 66. So boom. Okay. But L plus L is the same thing as 2L. W plus W is the same thing as 2W. So let's go ahead and have that there, and I'm going to erase this so I have more space. Okay, then it says its width is half its length. So is, in this situation, is an equal sign. So our width is half its length. So if I multiply 1/2 times L, that should give me my width. Well, now we can plug this in for my W. So I would get 2L plus 2 times 1/2 L equals 66. So 2L plus 2 times 1/2 is just 1, so just L. 2L plus L, that's like having a 1 in front, so 3L is equal to 66. So when we divide both sides by 3, we should get L to be 22. Always label. I don't know if you're talking about 22 kitties, 22 piglets. What are you talking about? 22 centimeters. Okay, now we have L, I need to find W. So let's plug it back into this equation here and get W equals 1/2 times 22. So then my W should equal 11 centimeters. So there's my two answers. Okay, Greenfield is sponsoring a charity square dance where admission was $3 for adults, $1.50 for children. If 168 people attended and the dance raised was $432, how many adults and how many children attended the dance? Okay, so we're going to put money with money. So let's have $3 for adults. So if I'm trying to say I have 5 adults, if we're trying to figure out how much money the adults paid, it'd be 5 times 3 because it costs $3 for each of the adults. So what we're going to do is do 3A. A is going to be for adults. Plus, now we got children, so $1.50 C, and that's children. is equal to the total amount that they raised. So we put all of our money with our money. Okay, if 168 people attended the dance, so if I have all my adults and all my children in one room, there should be 168 of them. So if we added each of those together, each adult and child together, we should get 168. So we can just do A plus C here. So now we have to solve to figure out what A and C are. So let's cancel our A, so let's multiply by -3. So then I would get -3A minus 3C is equal to -504. Add down, so our A's cancel. So $1.50 plus -3 is a -150. C. 432 plus -504 is -72. Divide both sides by -1.5. C should be 48. So there should be 48 children. Okay, but now I have to figure out how many adults, because it says how many adults and how many children attended. So if I put A plus 48 is equal to 168, I should be able to get, because that came from here, I should be able to get how many adults there are. So if I subtract 48 from both sides, there should be 120 adults. Make sure you label. I don't know what you're talking about if you don't label it. The concession stand is selling hot dogs and hamburgers during a game. So it looks like at halftime they sold 78 hot dogs and hamburgers and brought in $105. Each item, hamburgers were sold for $1.50 and hot dogs were sold for $1.25. So again, let's do $1.50 X, X being hamburgers, and then hot dogs are $1.25, so those are my hot dogs, and they sold them both for $105.50. Okay, now the total amount of hot dogs and hamburgers is 78. So if I add all of my hot dogs and all my hamburgers that are sitting there, there should be 78 of them. So we're just going to do X plus Y equals 78. So now let's just multiply this by -$1.50. So I get -$1.50x minus $1.50. Y is equal to 78 times -150 is -117. Add down, so our x's will cancel. This should be -0.25y is equal to -1150. Divide both sides by -0.25. So then my y should be 46. Well, what does my y stand for again? Hot dogs. So there are 46 hot dogs. So now I got to figure out my hamburgers. So let's just go ahead and plug it into that equation because it looks pretty easy. So we're going to get x plus 46 equals 78. Subtract 46 from both sides. So we should have x equals 32 hamburgers. So there's my two answers. Okay, Thomas invested $5,000 in two different accounts. Oops. The first account pays an annual interest rate of 3%. The second account pays an annual interest rate of 4%. So we got 3%, 4%. And they earned $185 in interest. So this one, we're going to put the three things that we see that are the same together. So we're going to put our interest with our interest. So we're going to do 0.03, because remember, percentage. 3% is 0.03 times, that's going to be our first account, plus 0.04 for our second account, and they earned a total of $185 in interest. So we're going to equal $185. So now my two different accounts should be a total of $5,000. So if I add one account to the other, there should be $5,000. So we're just going to do x plus y equals 5,000. So let's times this by negative 0.03. So I get negative 0.03x, because I'm getting my x's to cancel, minus 0.03y is equal to negative 150. Our x's cancel because one's positive, one's negative. 0.04 plus negative 0.03 should be 0.01. 185 plus negative 150 should give me 35. Divide both sides. So then I should have $3,500 in one of my accounts. Got to figure out what's in my second account. So let's plug it back in. Okay, so subtract 5,000 and 3,500 from each other. So my other account should then be 1,500. Okay, make sure you label it. If you're talking about money, make sure you put the money sign. Okay, there are two different jobs. Oh, we're done.